They called it a celebration of legacy. For me, it was the night my name was stolen under a chandelier's glow. The ballroom glimmered with relentless light chandeliers scattering gold across polished marble. Velvet banners bore the Caldwell crest threads woven to proclaim permanence. Guests drifted in gowns and tuxedos, their laughter rising, their words steeped in pride. To them, this was history polished bright. To me, it was the moment my work would be claimed and applauded by someone else. I stood at the fringe, my glass untouched, the stem cold against my palm. At the center, Claire, my cousin, shone beneath the spotlight. She had the posture of inheritance, every gesture rehearsed. Behind her graphs and projections illuminated a vast screen. I recognized them with the familiarity of scars. They were mine, every calculation, every sleepless draft. But her name crowned them. She spoke with poise, thanking the board for trusting her vision. Vision. The word pierced. I remembered my own whispers in dark hours, willing formulas into clarity. My gaze slipped toward Grandma. Her hand trembled against her cane lips, parting, ready to speak. But Claire's manicured fingers pressed firmly on her arm. The protest vanished. Silence triumphed. The lie stood. Applause thundered. Executives leaned forward. Journalists scribbled furiously. Investors beamed with approval. Claire lowered her head in feigned humility, though her eyes glittered with conquest. I stepped forward only to be met with a courteous barrier and usher's whisper, "Not now." 2 words sharp enough to erase me. The humiliation deepened when a silver tray was set in my hands. Someone suggested half in jest that I should pour champagne for the family's star. Laughter followed, gilded and cruel. My grip tightened on the bottle. Around me, corks burst in chorus, each crack an insult. Their celebration was built on the theft of my silence. The scent of wine rose. Claire extended her glass, smirk, faint but deliberate, daring me to falter. My hand did not shake. The liquid shimmered as it filled her flute. Cameras flashed, capturing her triumph, my servitude. Inside, fire roared, words begged to break free. Outwardly, I remained composed, exactly what they expected. Around her, guests pressed in with praise. Every cheer sealed my erasure. Yet through the noise, I heard something quieter, truth waiting, pulsing in Grandma's silence. Tonight, humiliation bound me, but I knew what it could become. Humiliation ferments into resolve. As the final drop slid into her glass, I let the bottle gleam beneath the chandelier. I memorized everything, the applause, the smirk, the indifference. Nothing would be forgotten. Each detail would return as judgment. As I held the bottle steady, I swore to myself the next toast would not be hers. December's cold bit deeper than snow, it carried the sting of being erased from my own bloodline. The headquarters rose like a blade against a gray sky. 2 weeks after the gala, applause had cooled into policy. The lobby smelled of citrus. Screens scrolled numbers that didn't see me. An elevator lifted me. Mirrors returned a practiced face. The boardroom waited in steel and glass. Claire stood at the far end with directors. The hush felt staged. A screen bloomed with timelines I had built and names that were no longer mine. "Thank you for coming," Claire said, lacquered. "Given restructuring, we're aligning leadership on the defense contract. Effective today, Natalie will transition off the project." Transition, polite, lethal. "The framework is mine," I said. "Every benchmark, every risk model." I slid a folder forward, dates, drafts, signatures. Claire didn't look. "You were supportive," she said. "This demands a different profile. You're a background player, not a leader." The stamp landed. Faces stayed blank. I listed systems only I could have designed. Claire tilted her head. "Let's keep this professional," she said. "Attachment breeds confusion." Managerial smiles agreed. The vote was ceremonial. My role shrank to a line item. At the corner, Uncle Ray watched the table's reflection as if it might confess. He knew where pressure collected and when to breathe through it. When the room broke into handshakes, he drifted near, as if merely tired. In the hallway, the world resumed at corporate speed. Ray's shoulder brushed mine. "Don't stop at the elevator," he murmured. "Archive room." The archive door stuck, then yielded. Fluorescence hummed. Ray's hands looked older in the hum. From his coat he drew a thin, faded contract. "This could matter one day," he said. I unfolded it on a rolling cart. Counter-signatures clauses, a buried addendum that looked harmless until it didn't. Dates aligned with my prototypes. A clause reassigned credit after milestones activated by a review panel that never met. A tunnel cut to redirect authorship. The air sharpened, my pulse steadied. Claire had built the floor I was meant to fall through, quiet approvals, a mirror of consent, the kind of theft that smiles for the camera. Ray tapped the page. "You weren't crazy," he said. "You were early." He left me with the hum and the proof. I read it again, mapping its grammar to bruises I couldn't show. Thin as it was, it weighed more than apology. I slid it into my folder, tucked the folder under my coat, and stepped into the corridor's refrigerated air. Outside, snowfall thickened. Wind needled my cheeks. Cars hissed by, leaving white ghosts. I descended the stone steps and stopped in the cold breath rising like smoke. For a long moment, I did nothing but clutch the folder and listen to the street, to the building's hum, to the cadence inside my ribs. The contract crinkled when I tightened my grip. December cut clean, but the page in my hands cut cleaner. It named the trick, and if it named it once, I could name it back. Snow gathered at the envelope's edge, melting to tiny stars that vanished on contact. I let them disappear. Other things would not. The cold bit my fingers, but the paper burned hotter, proof that silence could bleed ink into justice. They thought stripping me of titles would silence me. Instead, it gave me room to sharpen my blade. January settled into a quiet. In the Caldwell library, candles glowed while I worked a flashlight along ledgers and binders. Ray said records never vanish. They learn to hide. The contract in my coat pulsed like a metronome under my ribs. Signatures repeated, then slipped a budget line bent toward a consultancy with no staff. A review panel signed a meeting that never met. Claire's public story held. In here, it leaked. Ray paused. "You're close," he said, "but you'll need more than dust." He left keys. A clock hammered. At my apartment, neon washed the blinds. The contract lay open beside a cold mug. I stitched a timeline marrying estate dates to my emails. My phone buzzed. "Ethan Park. If you're awake, 5th floor landing. No cameras." I was already pulling on my coat. The stairwell smelled of wet concrete. Ethan waited with his collar up, eyes jittering like a man measuring courage. "This is wrong," he said, pressing a folder into my hands. "Minutes from a core team that doesn't exist. They credit Claire with concept and risk envelope. Your name is scrubbed." He swallowed. "I can't pretend the audit trail makes sense." "It doesn't," I said, skimming signatures that mimicked gravitas. "Why help me?" He laughed once without cheer. "Because I like my job less than I hate being complicit." The landing light flickered. The bulb blinked. At headquarters next morning, Claire's heels ticked a courtroom rhythm. She intercepted me. "You're restless," she murmured. "You'll drown if you keep swimming against me." I let the warning pass through and keep walking. I changed tactics. You don't topple a statue by shouting at marble. You loosen the plinth. I let a rumor slip, a simple question about that consultancy and the panel that never met. By afternoon, calendars opened. That night, a press mixer rattled the mezzanine bar. Claire absorbed attention like a panel. A journalist asked, "How does a panel sign without a meeting on the books?" Claire's smile adjusted. "Administrative lag," she said. "Happens in any large firm, and the consultancy specialized staffing." Discretion. The eyebrow that answered said otherwise. Back at the library, Ray's keys opened a stubborn cabinet. A binder coughed up vouchers tied to phantom panel activities. The dates were fiction. The expense codes were real. I photographed everything and sent copies off-grid. For the first time, the ground felt like a floor. Claire waited when I returned the keys. No board, no audience, just lemon wax old carpet. "You've been busy," she said. "They'll never choose you. You don't speak the language of the room." "I speak the language of proof," I said. "Rooms learn it." She smiled without heat. "Cute. Gravity wins." "Maybe. But leverage beats gravity when you find the right bar." Sleet-stitched panes while we measured each other. I tried to pass. She blocked the archway quick. "Enough," she said, voice low and bruising. "You're poking at things you don't understand." I held her gaze until her eyes blinked first. A small victory, but mine. I tucked Ethan's folder under my arm and feinted left. She mirrored right, efficient as a gate. I pictured the consultancy's registration, the voucher codes, the panel that never met. I pictured Grandma's tightening hand and silence learning to speak when given a witness and a microphone. She leaned in close, smile gone to muscle. "You're not owed an audience," she said. "You never were." My voice arrived steadier than I felt. "I'm not asking for one." For a breath, her script faltered. Her wrist flicked, a flute flashed. The room held its breath. She stepped in until my shoulder met the paneling. She leaned close enough for me to smell the champagne on her breath. "Cross me again, and you'll regret waking up tomorrow." The storm has only begun to gather. Stay with me, subscribe now, and be the first to step into the next chapter of this fight. They summoned me, expecting a lamb for slaughter. They forgot lambs learn the wolf's silence first. The February wind needled the glass auditorium until it sang. The crest glowed above the stage. The city glittered beyond the glass. Claire stood at the podium in pearl white, voice bright. She thanked the board, praised strategy, named victories. My work wore her smile. I sat 3 rows back with a folder under my arm, paper cool. Ray's old contract lay inside. Ethan's minutes lay beneath. January's threat lingered distant as spent thunder. Silence wasn't surrender. It was stillness to aim. Claire's story marched from slide to slide. Graphs raised her. Charts embalmed my absence. Shareholders leaned. Journalists nodded. When the applause swelled, I rose. My chair scraped. The room listened. "I request the floor." The chair hesitated, then nodded. Claire's smile held. Her eyes thinned like glass before a crack. I walked to the aisle, the folder tight against my ribs. "Before we approve the resolution, I said we should examine the foundation under it." I set the contract on the table. Cameras leaned. "This document predates the unveiling," I said. "It confirms authorship transfer terms never honored mine." A ripple moved through the audience. Ethan near the booth checked the feed. Claire laughed, bright and brittle. "Family nostalgia," she said. "We are here for business." "Then business requires truth," I answered, opening Ethan's minutes. "Here are signatures from a core team meeting that never existed. Here are timestamps aligning to my prototypes. Here is the clause that redirected credit through a panel that never met." Reporters surged. "Are these authentic? Who initiated the transfer? Why do finance entries predate approvals?" The screen behind Claire flickered. A magnified signature filled the screen. Ethan had cued overlays, my signature dated. Hers later, letter forms, irregular strokes doubling back like a hand learning a name it had not earned. An overlay traced mismatches in crimson. Gasps broke. An investor swore into his fist. Claire tried her tone. "Misunderstandings," she said. "A technicality. We will address it internally." But the air had changed. Shareholders stopped nodding. Cameras stopped blinking and started aiming. The chair's pen stilled. Numbers weren't enough. Provenance mattered. I did not move. The document spoke plainly. The projector revealed vouchers labeled panel activities on dates with no rooms. expense codes tied to meetings that never happened, signatures from reviewers out of state. Each slide tightened the vise. Claire's face shone with heat. February couldn't explain. Powder lifted. Her breath caught. "You always envied me," she snapped. "You would burn this company to claim a paragraph." "No," I said. "I would keep it from burning itself." A murmur rolled. Independent audit. Freeze this vote. Council comment on forgery. Legal pads surfaced. Phones recorded. Claire slammed the podium. The sound hit glass and came back thin. "Enough," she cried. "This is a stunt." Yet the stunt had numbers and ink. Ray lifted his chin. Ethan folded his arms as if bracing for the first honest gust. The weight in my hands felt lighter. Paper once heard carried itself. Security shifted at the doors toward the rumble among investors. The chair looked older. "Ms. Caldwell," he said, "we will recess to verify." Claire reached for a smile and brought back a grimace. "You think I'm afraid?" The microphones caught her ragged breath. In profile, she was a statue learning it could fall. I met the camera glass like a horizon. I wanted the record to see my stillness, the future, to know this room's exact shape. The room held its breath. As the cameras flashed, I saw it in her eyes, panic raw and unmasked. For the first time, she feared me. They once thought silence would erase me. Instead, silence carved my name where their applause used to be. Early March, a rented oak table 13 floors above K Street, the city beyond glass. The chair cleared his throat. Emergency session. Agenda removal of Chief Operating Officer Claire Caldwell. I brought 2 folders, the old contract and the minutes edges square. Ray nodded. Ethan watched. Claire arrived late, pearl jacket, dulled hands trembling. Her voice rose and failed. "We are family," she said. "Don't let outsiders tear us apart. Don't let envy rewrite us." She found spreadsheets. "Natalie," she said, turning to me, "don't do this. We protect our own." I didn't answer. I set the contract. Then the forged minutes. Then my silence. Uncle Ray's warning returned. Patience is sharper than rage. I kept still. The quiet deepened. Pens seemed to think. Council summarized falsified signatures, phantom panels, misrepresented revenue. "Liability is significant," she concluded. "Immediate separation is prudent." Vote cards slid across the table. All in favor, cards rose. Opposed to, carried. Security stepped forward. Claire tried to laugh. It cracked. "This is theater," she said as the doors opened. She looked at me as if from her mirror. "You'll be alone when the lights go off." I folded the documents and lifted one page, the forged signature. Cameras waited. They love symbols. The page told the story. In the hall, microphones jostled. I offered no statement. A headline formed, "Silence raises the evidence." Ray's palm brushed my shoulder. Ethan whispered, "It's over," then corrected, "This part." Days later at Arlington, wind carried hush. White markers stood. I followed the path to my father's stone grass cut to military certainty. I took the company pin, eagle, and gear worn smooth by years. I set it at the base and pressed my fingers to the marble. "We show up," I said too softly for anyone else. The city lay behind me, still, only breath and sky. I thought of Claire led through the firm's door, legacy shedding. I thought of that night under Grandma's chandelier when my name disappeared. The January storm had changed shape, not thunder now, but clean air after rain. Ray called the interim board, wanted proposals by Monday. Ethan forwarded a draft consent decree. I brewed coffee, opened a notebook, and wrote stewardship over victory. Anger that once kept me upright felt spent like a ladder I no longer needed. A flight line cut the clouds. I turned toward the gate with empty hands and my name intact. As the doors shut behind her, I realized this wasn't just survival, it was legacy. And legacies don't end here. I carried my silence like a blade, and it carved a path no applause ever could. If you believe my fight was worth it, I ask you, lend me your voice now. Share in the comments what you would tell me after all I've endured. Your words matter. They turn solitude into solidarity. And if there is a lesson, I leave you with it, is this: never mistake silence for weakness. Sometimes restraint is the sharpest weapon and dignity the greatest shield. In your own battles, hold fast. Patience can outlast the loudest storm and deliver the truest justice.